Hello everyone and welcome back to round number 4 of the Des Plaines Illinois City Championship. Just got back from lunch and we will be starting up. We have a great matchup here in round 4. We have our very own Ben Potter, the Great White Hope himself, versus Dustin Zimmerman, one of the up-and-coming players in the Pokemon TCG. He's had a ton of success the past season, the past couple years, and he is just rolling along in this season as well. I'm looking forward to this great matchup. We have 100 players, 7 rounds, and we're going to start to get some great matchups, just like this one. So Ben will be on the left, Dustin will be on the right. I believe Ben is playing a Rayquaza Eelektrik deck, and Dustin is probably still using his Darkrai Landorus deck that he used to take second place yesterday. Dustin, I think he's won 3 cities, and he just took second yesterday, so he's honestly just playing to win another city. That's the only way he's going to gain more points. Ben, on the other hand, he has not had too much success at cities so far, so he's going to be looking for, a pretty good outing here to, just get some championship points, stay in the race for an invitation to the World Championships. Let's see, it's probably going to be a couple minutes before we get set up here. Now, these two guys are friends. They know each other. They talk with each other. They're two of the game's rising stars, I want to say. Dustin, I think he's had much more success than Ben. He's qualified for Worlds a few times. He has, he won 2 state championships last year, back-to-back. He always does well at the big tournaments. He's won a lot of tournaments recently, and he's really just become one of the most solid, consistent players we have in the game. Ben, on the other hand, he's a player who just actually started playing 2 or 3 years ago. He hasn't been playing for very long. Qualified his first year Worlds, and he's always improving. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here as we get underway. And Ben starts with a lone Dynamo. That's scary when you're going second. But I think Ben just said, yes, I survived. If Dustin had started with just the Landorus and a fighting, it would have been game over. And looks like instead, Ben lived to see a turn at least, because Dustin has already attached his Dark Energy. Unless he drops a Dark Claw and a Plus Power, which I don't think he plays, Ben will survive the turn. So starting with Lone Dynamo, of course, is a #1 risk of playing Eelektrik decks. And it happened, but Ben's going to survive. You never want to be the guy opening with that 40 hit point Pokemon going second. So many things in this format can knock you out going first. And no, looks like Dustin doesn't have a very good hand. He's going to confuse Ray and actually just do 10. Now that might seem kind of irrelevant, but it's actually a really, really important 10 damage to have. If Ben never evolves that Dynamo, a Night Spear for 30 will finish that off, or a Hammerhead for 30 from Landorus EX will finish that off. So these are important things to keep in mind. Every little bit of damage counts in this sort of a matchup. Now let's see what Ben goes for here. He Ultra Balls away a Mewtwo and a Juniper. I like the decision to get rid of the Mewtwo, because that's not going to be very useful against Darkrai decks. You'd pretty much always rather just use Rayquaza. And I assume he'll just grab a second Dynamo here. Because really what Ben needs to do is kind of weather the storm in this kind of a matchup. You need to try to get as many Eelektriks in play as possible so that you can just keep fueling Rayquaza EX's Dragon Burst. If your Eelektriks get knocked out, your deck does not function very well. That's just the way it is. It looks like Ben decides to end instead of playing the Juniper. Now there was a strange decision, seeing as, Dustin, he didn't play anything after his end. He drew 6 cards and just confused Raid. And we saw Ben discard a Juniper with his Ultra Ball. So maybe there were a couple cards there that he just didn't think he could get rid of. Maybe he's got some Eelektriks prized and he just couldn't discard the one in his hand. But, oh man. You can always end up with a hand like this. 3 Lightning, a Prism, a Super Rod, and a Zekrom. That is terrible. So here we go, Thunder Wave. Ben's going to be praying for heads here. I know, it's a Tails. This is going to open the door for a massive play if Dustin can pull it off. He needs, if he can get a Landorus EX, oh, there's the catcher. If he can get a Landorus and a fighting, he can Hammerhead and knock out both Dynamos this turn. This is where that 10 damage comes in handy. Is he going to do it? He has the Juniper. So off these 7 cards, he's going to need a Landorus EX and a Fighting Energy. Hammerhead would hit the active for 60, hit the bench Dynamo for 30, wipe out 2 Dynamos turn 2, and Ben, you got to think the game would just almost be over at that point. But just losing 2 prizes like that and 2 Dynamos, ugh, that's game over pretty much. But Dustin is not acting quickly. It does not seem like he has it. But another thing that could happen is there's a Dark Patch. He still hasn't attached for the turn. So if he has an attachment, he can retreat an Energy Switch and get a turn 2 Night Spear. Now if he does that, it's the same result. It's even stronger actually. A fully powered Darkrai, knocking out both Dynamos here. But if he doesn't have the Energy Switch, it doesn't work. And you gotta think, if he had the Energy Switch, he would just go right for it. He would just say, ugh, Night Spear. That's game, pretty much. But he's taking his time. I don't think he has it. Probably just going to see a Junk Hunt. Probably for the Energy Switch and maybe a catcher. And Dustin will be a little disappointed with this. But at the end of the day, Ben really doesn't have a whole lot. So I don't think he'll be too disappointed. And he's still in good shape. So now Ben, he draws exactly what he needed, another Lightning Energy. To add to his 3 in his hand already. So here we go for another Thunder Wave, and alright, he got the heads this time. That is actually just what I needed. He needed to buy a turn, otherwise he was just going to get destroyed by Night Spear. I think he probably should have just retreated and used Thunder Wave with the other one, forced Dustin to use a catcher if he wants a double prize. But he decided to just Thunder Wave with the active one. And Dustin's got to pass. So now Ben, he's got some decisions to make. Well, I guess he's just going right for it. He's going to retreat to Dynamo and Thunder Wave again, hoping for another heads. And oh, that's tails. So you got to think things are starting to go downhill very quickly for Ben. And up, there's the catcher. So you can see that 10 damage from Confuse Ray on that first turn. That is the difference here. Ben just has nothing to work with. And we're probably going to have to see him use Celestial Roar pretty soon, which is not a spot you ever want to be in. Obviously, I like Dustin's position in this situation. He's got a Darkrai fully powered. Ben has no Dynamos in play, no energy in play. What do you do if you're Ben? He top decks an Ultra Ball. It is not going to help you here. He puts a Prism on the Rayquaza. He has a Lightning in his hand as well. I would actually just attach the Lightning if I were him, if you're going to use Celestial Roar. Because, let's say that you get a Prism off Celestial Roar, you're actually forced to take it, and now you have 2 Prisms on your Rayquaza. But it looks like he's going to Ultra Ball away a Lightning and a Zekrom, and just grab another Dynamo and be happy with that. Now Ben, he just does not have a supporter. He has nothing. Maybe if he had some stuff to work with, he would be okay, but he really doesn't. He has 2 Dynamos in the discard pile. And another thing working against him is that he's got a bunch of energy in his discard pile, so this Celestial Roar is even less likely to do anything. But he will be able to discard the top 3 cards of his deck. And if any of them are energy, you attach them to Rayquaza. So here we go. There's a Dynamo, an Eelektrik, and it looks like a Tropical Beach. All cards that I'm sure he wishes he had. And yeah, that's just going to pile it on. It's going to make things even worse. There's a Crushing Hammer. Why not? There's a heads too. Might as well just make this as dominant a victory as possible, I suppose. And this is kind of why people stopped using Eelektrik decks. The Rayquaza Eelektrik deck is good against a Blastoise Keldeo kind of a deck. It's good against the Ho-Oh deck, but against things like Darkrai, against Landorus, is just not going to be a very good deck. Just your Dynamos are too prone to being knocked out. They can just go downhill very quickly, and that's exactly what's happening here. You know, Ben obviously didn't draw any supporters or anything like that, but even if he did, this would have been a super tough matchup, and I gotta think Dustin would have been on top anyway. We see Dustin discard a Gold Potion, which I noticed yesterday. He plays Gold Potion over Computer Search in this deck. So I saw he had the Gold Potion in his hand earlier. If he had the Computer Search, he would have actually had a turn 2 Night Spear, but he had the Gold Potion, so he just had to Junk Hunt the second turn instead. So this game could have been even uglier if he played Computer Search instead of Gold Potion, but he likes the healing option. And speaking of Computer Search, that's what Ben draws. I'm sure he wishes that was a Gold Potion so he could survive. But now we have a 3 prize turn from Dustin. Ben is down to 1. This is just game over at this point. He has a weird decision, like he could use his catcher to bring out the Sableye. That has no energy, try to stall for a turn. I don't think that'll work. Or he can just hold on to his cards and then get another card to use Computer Search next turn. Probably grab an N, but I don't think Ben plays Max Potion. This game's just going to be over in 2 turns, I think. Which is unfortunate. I wish we could have Ben put on a better show here for you guys, but this is Pokemon sometimes, and this is just what matchups are. Sometimes you hit a bad matchup. I mean, Darkrai Landorus is probably your absolute worst matchup if you're Ben with this Eelektrik deck. It's just, I mean, it's horrendous. This is like a deck that's built to beat you. And I guess you feel bad because you end up losing, especially you end up losing on stream when you're looking forward to proving to everyone that, that you're a good player. But sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you just draw bad hands. And I don't think I've seen Ben play a supporter this turn. I think he played a Juniper on the first turn. That was it. And then we never saw him play another supporter. Dustin just kind of thinning out his hand for N. I think he's playing a random receiver in case he gets End. No, Ben draws a Juniper. But he's going to Computer Search for an N instead, I think. And let's see. I don't think there's really anything that can help him anymore, if you want to be completely honest. There's just too much energy in play for Dustin. There's already 90 on the Rayquaza EX. And it's just pretty much impossible. And you can see Ben trying to fake out like he's shuffling his hand with his 1-card hand. But I think he's accepted that he's lost at this point. It's pretty much over. And he's just kind of playing it out. Who knows what can happen? But I think we can all see the grim reality of this situation. 6-1 in prizes. Ben's got no energy in play. A Rayquaza EX with 90 damage on it, facing down a fully powered Darkrai. And he's going to go for one last Celestial Roar. Ooh, he gets 2 Prisms, and then he loses immediately. And, yeah, there we go. There's a Night Spear. That is it. Dustin Zimmerman takes a quick 6-0 victory over Ben Potter. And he will move on to 4-0, continuing his good run here at Cities. Ben will drop to 3-1. Just an ugly game. Didn't draw anything. Just can happen in this format. 2 Dynamos went down in the 3rd turn, and that's all she wrote. So, yeah, it's going to wrap up this round. I mean, it only took a couple minutes. But sometimes you get those games of Pokemon, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So thank you guys for watching this round. We'll be back with round 5 shortly. And we have 7 rounds here, so 3 to go. And this should be a great finish. I'm Matt Moss. And stay tuned, guys. I'll let you know when we get back with round number 5.